Welcome, everybody, to the very first 2023 Spark Live. We are here today. We're going to have some fun. You can see it's just me at the time, and I'm going to actually do something really quick because it says that my audio is a little unstable. So let me try something really quick and put it on something else and see if that gets better. So hopefully that'll be better. If you guys out there can hear me, could you just kind of let me know in comments whether you could hear me or not? That'd be great. If you guys are there, anybody out there? Anybody out there? Well, hopefully you guys can hear me. It looks like it's a little bit better. But we're going to cover something today that is really close to my heart and that I love to talk about. Thank you, Terry. I appreciate that so much for letting me know. One of the things that we talk about for 2023, this is really about stories. And one of the things that I learned, Carter and I did an entire study several years ago about the brain and marketing and how the marketing and marketers were using messages and stories and all kinds of different functions to get people to buy their products and do that great stuff. Well, it sounds like it's great stuff. But what we learned when we were studying that is that the brain is really wired for stories. It's one of the reasons that we find ourselves really drawn to stories. I mean, I was thinking about this. I've been to parties and be talking about to somebody in a conversation a little bit and hear off to the side somebody telling a fishing story or a story about going snow skiing or something that's really kind of just piqued my interest. And I find myself listening to that story more than I'm listening to that person in front of me. And one of the reasons we do that is because we are so wired for story, just from our origins. If you break it down, stories go all the way back thousands and thousands of years to indigenous peoples. I mean, the storytellers, those were the ones that brought the culture of their people forward. They were the ones that would tell the next generation what happened, how they handled things, the whole nine yards. There's a great book called Women Who Run with the Wolves. And the title doesn't mean it's just for women, but it's a fantastic book on indigenous people's stories and their cultures and how those stories have lasted throughout the years, if that's something that you might be interested in. But it really ties into why we are so drawn to stories. So here's what I see that happens. Is, man, we get to the first of the year and we're talking about our goals, we're talking about our resolutions, we're talking about what our intentions are. We're all into that. But very seldom do we stop and think, what's my story going to be in 2023? What do I want my story to be? At the end of 2023, what do I want to look back and say, wow, I did this or I did that? We don't ever think about it in terms of stories. So what I really want to talk about today is the stories that we create, the stories that are in our head, the stories that we grow up with, the stories that we carry with us sometimes that may or may not be true, and how that affects us not only in our lives, but it also affects our businesses and how our businesses affect our marketing. And I've got some notes over here, so I'm going to make sure I don't miss anything, because this is a really something close to my heart, and I want to make sure I get this right. So the first thing I want to talk about is, are you caught up in a story of your own making? What do I mean by that? So you have to understand that stories are something we all have. We all sometimes talk about our stories. Some of us have stories we don't want to share at all, and that's fine. Nothing wrong with that. But we talk about them in terms of the past. But some of us obsess over stories. I don't know if you guys, uh, and I'm not going to pick on anybody in my family or my wife's family, but we have people that tell the same story over and over and over again on both sides of our families. My dad's 88 years old, just sharp as a tack, but he tells the same jokes over and over and over again. And he says, I'm sure you've heard this before, but I think you've forgotten it. So let me tell you this. And because he's all about fun and all those things. But sometimes we have stories that's very difficult for us to get over. We have other people in our family that lived in their high school years, and they're my age or older. I mean, I'm 65. So think if you're 65 and 70, but the place that your happiest place on earth was when you were in high school. So you live that story over and over again. And that makes you happy. There's nothing wrong with that. But here's the thing. If you live the same story over and over again, you stay in the same rut. Your brain makes these ruts, and that's what you think about. That's where you are. That's the only thing that you really have in that story. So it's familiar. It's safe. If we break out of what's familiar, if we break out of what's safe, then we're in the land I call of magic, which is outside your comfort zone. So our stories keep us in our comfort zone. The thing is, though, if you want to do something that's different, if you want to do something that broadens your horizon, whether it's personally or with your business, you get to create a story with that. You get to be the author of your own story, which is really fabulous if you think about it. So if you're thinking about the stories that you have just in your life, those things that you think about over and over again, the things you've heard over and over again, maybe the things that your parents told you, a teacher told you, somebody in your life that you thought was a peer said something to you, and you've latched onto that. There's some questions that I want you to kind of contemplate here. The first one is it true? I mean, it's amazing how many people who have been brought up in families that they really get to latching on to something that somebody said about you. You're lazy. Oh, I can't believe, you're blah, 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 whatever it is. But you're an adult now. You have to find out, is that story true? The other thing is the story really mine? Or have I been influenced by someone else? This happens a lot, especially in couples, where one just kind of takes on the other person's story. And so you're all in it together. That's great. But you didn't really get to participate in the story, but you're living somebody else's story. You're kind of a bit character, if you will, and not really playing out your own story. The other thing is my story in the present, or am I still living a story from the past? This is huge because our brains are wired for story, and because we know all those past stories, it's a lot easier to live stories in the past and keep doing the same things over and over again that we've always done, as opposed to think, right now, what can I change? What should I change? And start living in the present. Do I like my story? Man, there's a big one there. There's a lot of people that are living stories they don't like. They're living stories in their personal lives. They're living stories in their marriages. They're living stories in their businesses. They're living stories with their kids. I mean, I can't tell you how many parents I know that once they get my age will say, I don't really like my kids, and I haven't liked them in a long time. Well, that's really sad, because you could change that story and have a great relationship with your kids if you want to. I mean, that's the thing about it, is we get to change this stuff if we decide that it's not the way we want to live. And I'm going to talk about that in a minute, about some really good ways to kind of dig into that and find out. But here's the other thing. A lot of times whatever your story is, if you have a partner, children, family, whatever, you can have your own story and then come together and build stories together. But it doesn't mean that you have to fold your story totally into somebody else's. And we're going to get into the business side of this in a minute, because the last question you want to ask is this: am I stuck with my story? Is it just something I'm stuck with? I'm 70 years old. It's been my story my entire life. Am I stuck with it? The answer is no. You're only stuck with it if you choose to be stuck with it. That's really the answer. So let's talk a little bit about how your business reflects your story. I think this is where a lot of people, when I start talking about this, oh wow, I like this, Bart. It's all about what we're doing now and working toward. The past is the past and nothing can be done about what did or didn't happen. You are in charge of your own story. Absolutely, Bart, 100,000% you are. But here's the thing that's really important that people don't realize. They think, oh, there's my story. Okay, great. But how in the world does it affect my business? I mean, I can't imagine why my story would even be anywhere near my business. But you have to understand, your business is a reflection of your story. I mean, think about business owners. I just want you to stop, just take yourself out of it a minute and think about all the business owners that you know that cannot keep employees. And we have people we've been working with for 6, 7, 8 years, still can't keep employees. Hadn't figured out how to do that yet. Business owners that talk negatively about everything are those that seem like there's a dark cloud that just follows them around everywhere. I think of Pigpen and Charlie Brown, you know, the little cloud that just follows him around. I mean, and this is all the time. What do their businesses look like? How do their people feel in those businesses? Are they thriving? Are they dying? Are they just barely holding on? Are they bad people? No, they're not bad people. Do they have a sign around their neck that just says, hey, kick me and don't stop? No, they don't do that either. But they're living in a story that they can't seem to break out of. I mean, I've had so many people tell me, you know what? I just don't hire good people. Or they blame the people. There's no good people out there. Or it's like, well, I don't want to grow. I don't want the hassles. I don't want the headaches. I don't want the this. I don't want the that. But oh, by the way, I want to be and make as much money as that guy. Well, that guy over there, that gal over there, they're just not living in the same story of, I don't want that. I can't have that. I shouldn't have that. I wish I had that. They're actually living in the story that says, I can have that. They just have to do the activity that gets them there. I mean, that's it. And the thing about stories and marketing for your business, which a lot of people really don't understand, because they think their story is, I'm a family business and I've been in business in this community for 60 years, whatever that is. All right. Well, that's about you, but it's not your story. And there's two different things going on here, because the story that I'm talking about are those internal stories that either make or break whatever you do over and over and over again. Two things that make stories extremely important in marketing of your business. The first one has to do with the marketing effect. Whatever type of business you have is a reflection of your story. And when marketing gets involved, it simply puts a megaphone on your business and blasts it everywhere. So if you're a lousy business, guess what marketing does? Marketing lets everybody know you're a lousy business. Hey, Justin, good to see you on, man. Really appreciate you being here. So what's the second thing that marketing does? Here's the thing that marketing can never do. marketing will never change the way you do business. I'm going to say that again. Marketing doesn't change the way you do business. It doesn't change your business at all. And there's so many people that think once you get really good marketing, everything's going to change. Your operations don't change. Your sales don't change. You know, all that stuff doesn't change just because you go out and get good marketing. And one of the reasons I wanted to cover this is really, I think, really important that people sometimes miss. This is the time of year that I get calls. I've had 6 calls between Christmas and New Year's. Almost 100% of those people, not 100%, but almost 100%, are calling me out of desperation. It's kind of like sitting down at tax time and try to figure out, you know, what you need to deduct and do your taxes and figure out all the forms for the IRS and throwing up your hands and calling an accountant and saying, hey, I have figured out, I don't know how to do my taxes. Can you do them for me? Oh, and by the way, I don't have a budget. I have no money. So it needs to be free. What's the accountant going to say? No, can't do it. Can't help you. So that's why I'm trying to really make some impact here, that marketing is not the savior of your business. It is a part of a really well-defined business, but it doesn't save you. In fact, you can have great marketing and lousy sales and still go under. So I really have this passion about getting people to understand where marketing fits in their business. It is a pillar of your business, but it's not the savior of your business. So hopefully that helps. So if your business is a reflection of your story, and if your story is not true, okay, or the story that you're living in your business is not true, ultimately you will get found out. Okay? If you are sincerely not doing your business the way that you should, not treating your customers right, it's going to be found out. If part of your story is all I have is bad customers, then you're going to get all bad customers and you're going to be found out. So these are just the things, the way that it works. I wish I could tell you that there's a silver bullet and it's all great, you know, and that marketing was the savior of the world, and all you have to do is, you know, call us or call a company like us, and we can just, you know, make all your dreams come true. But the reality is we can't do that for you. Only you can do that for you. You have all the power in the world to change your story and make all your dreams come true. That's the great thing about story. That's the great thing about understanding all the things that go into a business that you can pay attention to, because you have the ability to do that. And I think that is powerful. When you realize that, that is power that a lot of people just don't understand that they have at their fingertips. So how do you discover? How do you discover and change your story to be what you want it to be? Okay? And this is really important. There's a lot of people that are trying to live other people's story. I'll give you a really good example. Probably 1 out of every 5 people I talk to want to be Mark Stoner, want to have Mark Stoner's business, think they want to, you know, do everything that Mark Stoner wants to do, and on and on and on. The problem is when I start telling them about Mark Stoner, what he does, how he does it, by the end of that conversation, they're exhausted. And then I ask them, do you really want to be that? And the answer is no, I don't really want to be that. So how do you discover and change and create the story that you want? You got to be clear. You got to start being crystal clear about what you want your business to look like. That's really the first step. Don't let anybody else tell you what you should be doing. I mean, Bart Ogden's on this call. Bart's got a great company. Bart's company looks nothing like Mark Stoner's company. They both have different visions. They're both very successful. They have written their own stories. They are totally different stories. They just happen to be in the same industry. So you don't have to be like somebody else in order to be successful or have the business that you want. We have people that are really small and they want to stay small. They like staying small. Terry is a great example of that. She's got a fantastic family business. They do well. They like what they have, and that's what they want. And that's what they've created. So my passion here is to create what you want in your life. Figure that out. If you can't figure that out, then you're just kind of wandering around. It's kind of a ship on an ocean without a rudder, without any destination. And you just kind of float around and hopefully you'll get to somewhere that you like. But you got to make that first decision, because from that decision is going to tell you the next steps that you need to have and the action plans so that you can get to the final place that you want to be, which I think is fantastic, by the way, when you can do that. Because not everybody wants to be in the same place in life. Just, we're different, and that's great. And we get to have different stories in different businesses. So here's the bottom line, guys. You'll never be able to change your business without changing yourself. I'm going to say that again. You'll never change your business without changing yourself. You talk to any successful business owner, they've had a coach, they've read a massive amount of books, they have listened to webinars, they've listened to podcasts, they've done everything that they know to do out there in order to change themselves. I've told the story a couple of times about Carter and I. There was a book I read on habits. And I wish I could remember it right now. And right now, I should have written it down. But it is a great book on habits. And if you email me, Taylor@sparkmarketer.com, I promise I'll email you back and find it. But it's talking about institutional habits. And one of the things they talked about is the people in your business. And I'm reading this book. Actually, I'm listening to it on Audible, and it says, hey, what you find out is they come through your process and they get a job with you and you tell them what the job's like. And then they go to work on the first day and they go back with all the people that they're working with, and they find out what it really takes to stay in this job. And it was a bell went off on me. I walked into my office. I was out in the parking lot listening to it in my truck, and I walked into the office. I told Carter, I sat him down and I said, dude, there it is, Bart. Thank you. 7 Habits of Highly Successful People. That changed his life. That was in the 80s. I read that way back then. But I said, Carter, we have a problem. And he's like, why? Why do we have a problem? I said, you have to understand. Our people are learning, just don't make me mad. And don't bother you, and they can have a job. And he goes, what are you talking about? And I just told him the whole story of the thing. That led us down an entire different road to build a company that was centric around our employees, so that we cared as much about our employees and that they knew that we cared about them as much as we cared about our customers. And it changed our business, and it's changed the way that we've looked at things. But that was a path that really, I just went down that path and have not looked back. So it's something that I'm passionate about. It's something that I feel is very important. And it's something that I've done something about. I actually got certified as a business coach in November of this year. And I'm just going to put this up. I'm going to say what I'm doing here. I'm going to be doing a webinar. It's totally free. It's going to be January 20th. I haven't set the time in the afternoon, but it's really on how to build a small business. I want to teach people how to build a business. I want to teach them the different aspects of how to build a business. And I want to start in the chimney industry because I see a lot of people struggling with this. I'm not one of those guys. I'm not a Mark Stoner. I'm not a Roy House, a Jerry Eisenhower. All those guys, they can do all the other stuff out there. And let me just make this really clear. I'm not a consultant. I'm not going to do lead. I'm not going to do any of that stuff. I want to teach people the 6 major pillars of business and what they need to know and understand so that they can be a well-rounded business and know what it takes to build one, to be really, really successful. That's my intent. So if you know anybody out there that might be struggling, that you know in the business, if there's anybody there that you think could use just an introduction, that's all this is, on how to build a small business, please send them my email, taylor@sparkmarketer.com. If you're interested, send me an email, taylor@sparkmarketer.com. When I get all the details set up, I know that's the day. It's just going to be an hour. I'm not going to be recording it. Not for send out. I'm going to be recording it so I can listen to myself, but that's it. So you have to be there live, but that's what I'm going to do. And it's really based on creating a story for your life, a story for your business, so you can be highly, highly successful. So guys, I am at 27 minutes. I really, really appreciate your comments. Thank you guys. Thanks for those that showed up. I really, really appreciate that. Any questions or comments about anything that I've said thus far? I am open to whatever. And in the meantime, I'll just remind everybody that Spark Live, we're also is released as a podcast on Spotify, iTunes, Google Play, Podvine, your favorite player. It should be there. It's going to be a really good year, I think, for our podcast and for Spark Live. We're looking forward to it. We've got a lot of good stuff coming up. And that brings me to next week. We're going to be talking about choosing the right technology for your business. I've gotten some questions about technology recently, about how do you choose a technology when you're looking, how do you evaluate? So we're not going to be talking about really specific technologies, but we want to give you some tools and some way to think around technology so that no matter what you're evaluating, you'll have some good rules of thumb to take with you and have that. So thank you very much again for joining. I wish you guys the best of the best of 2023. Hopefully you get your mindset right, get your story right, and I hope all of you just blow it out of the water this year. So we'll see you next week. Thanks to all of you. Bye-bye.